These videos have been possible with the help of those that support me on Patreon, so thank you guys for your constant support, and if you want to support me, you can click on the link on your screen right now, or click the link in the description below. Thanks a lot.
Hello everybody, my name is Tyler Valle, and you know, I'm a really happy guy right now, I gotta tell you, because I've been wanting to work on this video since I first released my first appropriate response back in July of last year, but I didn't really have a story to latch it onto to make it relevant. So thank you, ignorant-ass black woman from San Francisco State University. Now before I move any deeper into my video, I want you guys to watch the video that sparked mine first.
You got some scissors?
You're saying that I can't have a hairstyle because of your culture?
Yeah,
Why?
because it's my culture. Do you know what the box means?
Do you know it was in Egyptian culture? Are you Egyptian? Nah, bro, you're not.
Are you Egyptian?
No, but it doesn't matter.
Wait, where's Egypt? Tell me.
You know what, girl?
Where's Egypt?
Dude, go. You have no right to tell me what I can not wear. Huh?
Where's Egypt?
Yo, girl, stop touching me right now.
Yo, girl, stop touching me right now. Come back.
Get off of me.
Come back, come back, come back. You put your hands on me, don't learn.
Well, learn what? Like, you're gonna make some shit because of what the hair I have? That's no reason, yo. I don't need your disrespect. I don't need your disrespect.
Why are you filming this?
Just for everyone's safety.
See, the takeaway here is that this white student who was later identified as Corey Goldstein, don't worry, that name's going to be important later, a local DJ from the San Fran area, is a racist because he culturally appropriated his hairstyle from black culture. Now, for those of you who aren't sure what cultural appropriation is and you haven't watched my last video, link in the description below, let me read for you the dictionary definition, which is actually kind of difficult because the only sources outside of Wikipedia that I see talking about this are Everyday Feminism and the Huffington Post. So instead, let me just read for you the definition of appropriation from Merriam-Webster. 1. To take exclusive possession of. 2. To set apart or to assign a particular purpose or use. And 3. To take or make use of without any authority or right. Now all you have to do is take this definition and attribute it to a culture, which is defined as the beliefs, customs, art, etc. of a particular society, group, place, or time. At this point, I'm sure you're already seeing the issue here. Can someone take the exclusive possession of a culture? Well, it seems that this woman and people like her are making very brazen attempts to do just that. But based on this young man's hairstyle, I'm going to say that they're doing a very poor job. Now, can you set aside and assign a particular use or purpose to a culture? Not really. And finally, can you make use of a culture without authority or right? Now, who has the authority to use parts of a culture or a culture? Who gives you that right? In the example of dreadlocks and black culture, who's the emperor of black people that I must speak to? Who must I speak to about my love for rap music, big asses, and DJ Khaled? It's nonsense to its core. Cultures exist to help maintain a society, and as these societies grow, they begin to get swept up in international trade and diplomacy. Their cultures will and should be shared with one another. It's honestly the best chance that these cultures will live on long after the people are dead. Now, this doesn't begin to touch on the fact that America, where this took place, is a diverse country whose culture is the mixing of cultures and always has been. There is a reason why, as far back as the early 1700s, the English colonies were the most diverse place in the world, both religiously and ethnically. When people moved to this land for a new life, they often brought their cultures with them. This led to cultures being shared amongst the colonists and helped form the foundation of American society. This has not changed from the 1700s to the 2010s. We are a culture of shared cultures. And as it's often told to our children, America is a melting pot. And honestly, that's one of our best achievements. If people like this woman existed back in the 1700s, they'd be slaves. But let's say they weren't black. Let's say they were Dutch or Irish, right? What if these people had their way then and believed their culture is for them and them alone? Now, I don't like to use this term too much because not all of my subscribers are from the United States, but I hope you'll bear with me. The very idea of cultural appropriation that people who attempt to stand against this so-called injustice is and are un-American. Please realize I don't use this from any sort of nationalist point of view. I'm not one for nationalism. But I do understand the history of my country and what makes it great and what makes it, well, for the lack of a better term, shit. The worst crime that these anti-cultural appropriation advocates commit is that they only apply this logic to one race and one race only. White people. If they're using something invented by another culture, well, that's fine because in some way they and their people are the ones who really made it. White people only benefited from it. But when a white person wears a kimono or styles their hair in an ugly fashion, well, that's when the offense police show up and harass them, if not outright attack them. Now, with that tangent out of the way, I want to approach the claim that dreadlocks are a part of black culture and black culture alone. Just how true is this claim really? Well, it is true that dreadlocks have a place in black culture. In fact, I'd go as far as to say that most people who wear dreadlocks do so because it was popularized in black culture. However, this does not mean that black culture owns or even invented the dreadlock hairstyle. Dreadlocks have been worn since before history is even recorded. In fact, some anthropologists believe that Cro-Magnons and even Neanderthals wore their hair in dreadlocks. Now, this is largely due to the fact that when your hair grows out and is unwashed and unkempt, it leads to it getting tangled and matted up, which leads to dreadlocks. Though without any proper historical records, there isn't much I can say about these people that doesn't delve too heavily into speculation, so I'd much rather start at the earliest historical examples of the use of dreadlocks, which just so happens to be ancient Greece circa 1600s BC. There are multiple examples of dreadlocks that have been used within ancient Greek society, whether it's the fact that over 50% of the Korai statues from the Archaic era were men depicted with dread-like hairstyles, or the fact that many Spartans wore their hair in dreadlocks, a tradition they had carried over from the Archaic era, even though other Greek city-states had dropped it entirely. There are even historians who believe that early Christian and Muslim leaders wore their hair in dreadlocks, and some even believe that this could have extended to the first bishop of Jerusalem, James the Just. Now, this is just within one area of the world, too. If you were to cross the Atlantic to the New World, there are definite records of Aztec priests rocking that long, unwashed, matted hair. And they were rocking that hairstyle long before the New World was even discovered by Europe. So needless to say, it's not like it was something that they were taught by the black community. In fact, one of the first times that dreads even show up within African society as a cultural phenomenon is within the Mufatic Sufi Muslims in the country of Senegal in the late 1800s. And please notice that I mentioned the dreadlocks being a part of that culture. This does not mean that up until the late 1800s, black folks weren't wearing their hair in dreadlocks. Remember, at the end of the day, dreadlocks are just long, tangled, matted hair. If you grew out your hair long and didn't wash it or maintain it, it would most likely get matted and tangled over time, and wham, you're now culturally appropriating a bad hairstyle. Now, these are just some of the earliest records of dreadlocks that we know of. Here in the modern day, dreadlocks have been and still are a major part of many different religious cultures, such as the Nikapa, a sect of Buddhist monks within Tibet who are known for their white robes and long, uncut hair. And while many people's first thoughts of Buddhist monks in Tibet are the orange robe, shaved head ones, who shave their head as a sign of foregoing their vanity and ignorant worries about beauty, the Nagapa priests relieve themselves of this burden in a different way, by growing their hair out long and leaving it untouched, which leads to it getting matted and dirty over time. The Nagapa believe as their hair grows longer, it becomes a vessel which houses the Dakini, a sort of female spirit, one that is kind of your vice, something you need to work to deal with and help maintain and keep you in a sense of equilibrium. Because their hair becomes this vessel, it can't be cut or maintained, which often leaves it growing out into long dreadlocks. Or how about within Hindu culture, where some religious leaders believe dreadlocks can be a religious symbol for, you probably guessed it, foregoing vanity in the service of the religion. These devout Hindus, both men and women who grow out their hair into long dreadlocks, or jata as they are known within their culture, can grow them out to enormous lengths and will eventually have to wrap them around their head somewhat like a turban. Heck, even the Hindu god Shiva is often depicted with his hair styled in a jata. One definitely can't say that the Hindu were appropriating this hairstyle, could they? It should be mentioned that dreads are not a foreign concept within Africa. As I stated earlier, just because the Sufi Muslims in Senegal were one of the first groups known to wear their hair in dreads for symbolic reasons, doesn't mean that they were the first ones to do so. There are records of many different tribes in Africa who wore or still wear their hair in the lock fashion, whether it's for simple fashion reasons or for cultural and spiritual ones. Dreadlocks are known to hold a significant meaning to many African tribes, each with their own culture and reason for doing so. Off the top of my head, I can think of groups within Kenya, Ghana, Nigeria, Tanzania, and I'm sure there are many, many more. One of these groups originates within Jamaica, which obviously is not part of Africa, but the roots of its ideology, or at least half of it, are. And today, on the global stage, they seem to be the majority shareholder who hold the rights to this unique hairstyle. The people I'm talking about are the Rastafarians. The Rastafarian movement started in Jamaica in the 1930s, well after any of the previous groups that I talked about, not to mention the Cro-Magnons or the Neanderthals. Now, while their ties to Africa and their actual religious beliefs are irrelevant to this video, one thing is very relevant: their hair. Arguably the most well-known sect of people who wear their hair in locks today, the Rastafarian locks are in fact worn for religious purposes. Or they're supposed to be. You see, Rastafarians who take that extra religious step and grow their hair out this way do so because they have taken the Nazarite Oath. This oath asks you to do 3 very distinct things. 1. Abstain from wine, wine vinegar, grapes, raisins, intoxicating liquors, vinegar distilled from such substances, and eating or drinking any substance that contains any trace of grapes. 2. Not to become ritually impure by contact with corpses or graves, even those of your own family members. And 3, and the actual relevant one here, refrain from cutting the hair on one's head, but to allow the locks of the head's hair to grow. That's right. There actually is a religious reason why Rastas wear their hair in dreadlocks. It's actually a pretty cool one. But here's where things get really ironic. Do you remember the name of that oath, the Nazarite Oath? Where does that oath come from exactly? Well, it's actually from the book of Numbers, which is the 4th book in the Old Testament, the Torah, the Jewish holy book. Now let's go back to the beginning of this video and remember the name of the young white man who was assaulted by these 2 brain-dead bigots. Corey Goldstein! These 2 idiots attacked a Jew for appropriating the hairstyle of the Rastafarian community, a hairstyle that was only used within their community because they appropriated the Nazarite Oath from the Jews. If anything, he should be lecturing them about their people's appropriation of his people's hairstyle. Hashtag know your hair story. Hashtag anti-Semitism. Hashtag remember the 27,000. Hashtag it's like another show up. This is just getting ridiculous. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed my video, and I'll see you guys next time. Remember, even when things get really weird and really depressing, at least you're not Anthony Birch. Or her. See you next time.